Okay, and a 1, and a 2, and a let's get it going. Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a minute, but here we are today, fighting words. And we're here to talk with Josh Furrate out of Louisiana, Knock Rising, and Anthony Buonomo out of Austin, Historical Weapons Guild. Say hi, guys.
Hello, how's everyone doing?
Hey everyone, how we doing?
Everyone's alive, so that if they're listening to this, so
Probably true.
Yeah, all right.
I know, right?
I know. I'm trying to be as
So
positive.
should we start by getting the name scandal out of the way?
What name scandal?
Like all I saw, my very first impression of Combatcon was all these images being shared of Anthony fighting,
Yeah.
but the name was, what even was it? I can't even remember.
Brucamo.
Oh, we have an accent for it now too. Oh,
Buonomo.
excellent.
And that's my favorite thing. I mean, as bad as they butcher Josh's name, Anthony has it 10 times worse and 50 times as hilarious. But
Oh my god, I didn't realize there was an accent now.
I mean, I don't know how. To be honest, I don't know how you fuck up my name. Just make it
Right.
Ferret.
Very.
There's a contingent saying it's be Brucamo.
Oh my god.
Or Bruchamo, I'm sorry. It's a
Buonomo. All right, before we get too far off track, let's go ahead and hit it. So today we're reviewing Combatcon with Anthony and Josh, who both have recently been there. So I'll start with you, Anthony, and then I'll move over to you, Josh. So Anthony, what weapons did you participate in at this tournament?
I did as much as I feasibly could. I was in advanced cutting, I did advanced longsword, did sword and buckler, did rapier, and I did single stick. Pump
Excellent.
style single stick.
Oh, okay. And Josh?
So I was a lot simpler than Anthony. I just did advanced cutting and advanced longsword.
Oh, so he's a pure
But I
advanced.
did spend a lot of time, like, coaching people, sparring people, and then directing and stuff like that.
Josh doing the more social aspects of a tournament?
No.
Fuck yeah.
All right, so since we got Josh talking, let's start off on our next big subject, which is thoughts on the rules, likes and dislikes, and stuff you would change. Josh, you're up.
Okay, so, like, I also have a giant email I kind of, like, put together to send them about a lot of my thoughts and opinions, too. So, like,
Sweet.
I have
Yeah, and
quite no parts, but...
Listen to,
And we should probably note here that we are asking them to, out loud right after a tournament, you know, with their names attached to it, give us their thoughts and opinions.
which we definitely appreciate.
So, which we appreciate. So,
Yeah. So on rule sets, I have a couple of key things because I helped direct multiple events and other things I felt were frustrating.
Okay.
One of the rule sets that I kind of got frustrated by was thrust to torso and longsword
Okay.
was only 2 points in comparison to like also being included as a headshot. But I think I kind of know what they were going for, but I think it's a cultural.
well, what do you feel like they're going for? Spell it out for us.
Well, it was more to like put it things at direct for the headshots, right? Highest value, everything was at the head.
Okay.
So headshots were all 3 points for things, including like pommels to the mask and stuff.
Oh, that's nice. But like thrust.
All strikes and thrust to torsos were 2 points,
Okay.
and everything else was 1 point for the longsword section.
Okay.
So, yeah. And almost every tournament I travel a lot of them, thrust to torso are generally always included at the same track point
That's
as a
that
headshot.
maximum
If you're-
point.
Yeah, it's a deep target. It's a manual specific way of fighting. So okay.
Yeah, thought of as an ideal strike, the same as a headshot should be.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's
And
interesting.
And when I talked to the directors and the coordinators, like they had gone back and forth on the rules multiple times on that.
Okay.
So I have a little bit of also issue with that because you're programming everyone to go to the head for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care who you are and skill wise, shit happens with headshots and thrust to face and different things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I like having that option availability just because like if I sink to your torso and deep body, I'm not worried about I'm like concussing you or I dent your mask up into the face or I have to worry about control in this process here.
Mm-hmm.
Personal training methods and points of views, I guess. Other little couple issues I had was the afterblow like time length that was available.
Okay.
in some things.
So how long was the afterblow?
There were weighted afterblows and different things, which I don't have a personal problem with honestly, to a lot of extents. But it comes to being, you throw that, you get hit, and then someone has to literally do a full giant rotation of their arm to make an action. Like, have to leave where they were, come back around to strike at you. Like, it's no longer in the time frame for me.
Was that by nature of the rules themselves, or was that more about judging, reffing?
It's a bit of a dual combo.
Sure.
Right?
I mean, yeah, it's clearly going to play into both, I guess, but which one featured more strongly?
If you have weighted, if you have weighted afterblows, though, like, that's the thing, though. You have to be precise.
Oh, okay, I see your point.
With your rulings, because, like, I got hit, I got to hurry up and do something. Like, in Rapier, it caused a shit ton of extra exchanges because, like, afterblow pretty much voided everything.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
And it's like, so you can get thrusted and you just cut them to the head, as I yelled at Anthony to do all the time.
And
and then you'd have, like, in a minute and a half, you'd have 16 exchanges, and no one's really scored shit.
Yeah.
But again, like, this is their first year trying out new rules, new things. Overall, I didn't have a problem with most of the rules and scoring. The single stick pub, the pub style single stick was entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
Not my jam.
I'm curious. I want to back up just a little bit to the afterblow thing. I'm curious if there's I can't think of one off the top of my head, but is there another tournament that has a similar afterblow rule that we've encountered?
I mean, is it Nordic rules, or?
So the Josh used the wrong phrase. This is not fully weighted afterblows. It's subtractive afterblows.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh,
and,
okay.
To kind of jump in and take over, like, I really liked the rule set. I appreciated the simplicity of it, and I feel like the reason they went, I'm just putting words in mouths as I'm guessing from my outside perspective because I didn't talk to anyone about this. But from my point of view, it's like, okay, you get hit in the limbs, cutter thrust, it's 1 point. Hit in the torso, cutter thrust, it's 2 points. Hit in the head, cutter thrust, is 3 points.
Okay.
And they're trying to make it a very simple system, very easy for less experienced judges to step in and look at things because, like, they may not be able to see if it's a cutter or thrust. But by simplifying, like, oh, was it a thrust of the arm, thrust of the torso? It's a 1 point difference, not 2 or 3 point difference. The subtractive afterblows. I mean, I'm a big fan of Hema not having standardized rule sets, or, like, having a semi-standardized rule set but not being nationally standardized or worse, internationally standardized, because it really helps prevent any sort of, like, gaming from happening. It's really easy to get in the mindset like, oh, I'm fighting in, like, Nordic League rule set. That means I just need to hit them in the head. Nothing else matters. If they hit me first, it doesn't matter as long as I hit them in the head too. Right? That mindset changes when you fight something like this, which is, I guess in my head, the West Coast Blood and Iron style, except simplified down. Right? Because instead of having arms, legs, torso, body, they just have limbs, torso, body. I like the subtractive afterload being -2 points because now it really penalizes those suicidal fighters who just kind of rush in and hope to get something and make it stick. Because even a headshot with an afterblow is you're knocked down to 1 point, which is an easy hand snipe away from being neutralized, taken out of the equation. So
I'm sorry to interject. Like, I wasn't trying to be completely just negative. I start with negatives and get to the positives.
No. Well, I took over and started talking. Because, like, I like the change of pace. I like the openness of it. I know there's definitely a new rule set for most people. We haven't done anything collectively in a year and a half anyway. They had lots of uphill hurdles to deal with on top of that as well. So I think the simplified rule set definitely helps things.
Anthony, do you think maybe some of what Josh is seen as a frustration there could be dealt with by tightening maybe of the bolts on how this works, like judges that know what they're doing and having run the rule set a few more times, or?
Well, like,
honestly, yeah. Because I mean, and Josh didn't get to see this because Josh was working it the whole time, but the whole system fell in place much easier when Josh was running the rings and emceeing the rings.
Right. That was an example I was about to ask you to give.
Okay.
Yeah, so like when Josh was there, everyone was really happy with the calls. With the rule set was great. Like, I mean, we all know the rule set going into it, and like, sure, we can make a whole hour-long conversation of, oh, was this the right rule set? Is this good? Is this bad? Historically, this is right. Well, martially, this is better.
Right.
Like,
Did it work for the event? Did we have fun doing it? Was it simple enough to understand?
That's kind of my approach to this thing. Like, they know what it is going in. And if I'm not saying Josh is saying this, so I'm definitely not like attacking Josh with this, but like, and if you don't want to fight in that rule set, if like, oh, they're doing Nordic style rule at event XYZ, well, it's not worth it to me to invest that money to fight at event XYZ if they're doing a rule set that I hate, right? And that's something you get to decide as a practitioner, as an attendee, and decide if that's going on. So, like.
So to interject, as somebody who also like was on the director and judging side of things, right? It was like, the rules were very simple just because I don't have to do math out there in the field. It's just like, hey, strike ahead, hey, thrust ahead, all this. Like, the rule set's very simplified on that aspect. I don't disagree. Like, it's an easy system to run. I felt like it was much like running Bro for me, honestly.
I can see that.
Like, it's not hard process. The bigger points that I go off of, like, like Anthony, you were talking about, like, okay, it's simplified for people. That's cool. The directors and judges for that style of system and all that point values, it doesn't matter what the score is and the point. I just got to say what it is.
Mm-hmm. So that way you can say, like, head shot over here, arm shot over here, and then, like, keep going from there.
Yeah, like I've directed at other tournaments where it's like you got to keep track of the goddamn score. Anthony.
Oh, we lost Anthony.
Lost connection. He'll be back, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure. Sorry, you keep recording.
Keep talking.
But like, I've been in tournaments where it's like you have to like sit there and do the math as you're calling out the score, and I'm like,
which isn't fair to anybody.
That's what a table's for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I have enough crap in a ring trying to judge advanced people and like blindingly fast actions and try to keep track of it. And then you want me to do math.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I like the idea of simplicity there. I want to watch some more videos. I'm a little concerned with the way the afterblow, like in its practicality, the afterblow rule worked. But that brings us to our next topic that we're going to wait until Anthony connects back in for.
Yeah, well, to go on. Like, and then when I talk about the afterblow rule, like the afterblow sections on it, like I use the wrong wording there, and it is subtractive.
Yeah,
and
no,
like,
that makes sense, man.
Y'all know I'm a fan of subtractive, but it was. I guess my biggest issue with things is like when you set the standards for things, you have to like.
Well, I mean, let me just ask it for you. Are you saying that your complaint is more about consistency and judging than it is about the rule set?
I think it's about consistency and also like everyone being on the same page as it. Yeah.
Okay.
Like not necessarily.
And Anthony's back. Good.
I don't put it on judges and directors as much.
No, well, no, and nothing I want to say about any of that is ever against any individual person. I know everybody who steps up to the ring to judge or ref or do anything is trying their best and putting in some effort to make our hobby better, and I respect and love every instance of that. But I'm gonna go ahead and use this as our segue into our next section. We're gonna go ahead and jump into the second topic since we got a pretty good overview, I think, of our feelings on the rules. But every time we kept touching into this topic, which is always the thing everybody wants to talk about, so let's talk about it. Consistent application of rules through refs, judges. How was the Combatcon experience with judging, reffing, and all of that?
Anthony, I'll let you go first on this one.
Judging was definitely an opportunity for them. And I will say they had something that I didn't take advantage of. Didn't even take advantage of the time, and that's definitely my own fault. So one of the things, they did something I really liked, something I do it weird. They have a 1+1 judging team, right? So they have the one ring organizer, the director, and then they have one assistant judge. And I'm a big fan of this system. I'm really happy Combatcon went on a limb and tried it. It definitely didn't execute varying on who was running the rings, it didn't execute as well as it could have. You definitely need a very strong, very confident director to do this. Like, that's why when Josh was doing it, it ran smoothly, ran really well. But I definitely had instances when, because they did have an offer like, hey, if at any time you don't like the director, the judges of your ring, you get one time, I think once per tournament, opportunity to say, like, you know what, I need a new director. This isn't working for me.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, it was there. It was in the rule set. I heard of one or two people using it and invoking it.
It was invoked. Okay, that was
there was
my
like
next
5
question.
or 6 because I got called to come like help multiple matches.
Man, I want to interject for just a second because that's so interesting to me. Did that become like a thing interpersonally, or did it go pretty smooth when you saw it happen? Like,
It went really smooth when I was involved with it because they were like, "Hey, look, guys just aren't seeing some of the calls. The fighters are getting frustrated." Yeah, and now also not to take away from some of these guys are jumping in balls during their time, and they're on hour 11.
oh yeah, for sure.
So it's just like we all want to power through and stuff, and sometimes you just need someone to say, "Hey, you need to go take a break."
Yep.
I've never been in
And
that
that's
position.
where a lot of those were
break,
for
huh?
me coming in. There was one instance where where people were just not happy with the judging. Like they were all like everyone in the whole pool was complaining, and I stepped in real fast and ran it. But it was not again, I think it was just more of a miscommunication than it was anything of personal issues.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm very excited to hear about that rule. I love anything that puts power in people's
actually
hands
in
like
the rule
that.
set of as Anthony brought it back up, I actually really liked having that as an option.
Yeah,
Like
because
kind of thing. Like I felt like it was really good to be like, hey, look, so that way you're not getting frustrated at the refs and directors and people who are trying their time. Like, look, this is not working, or I feel there's a conflict of interest, and without causing a scene about it.
Yeah, it gives you an avenue. I like that. I like that a lot.
yeah,
That's cool.
instead of trying to make a big stink about it and try to like, all right, now I got to like jam the whole works up so I can bring something up and get the director of the whole thing over there. Instead, I can go, you know what? I'm just going to use my power, my one time, and just be like,
team.
I just need a new team because
That's cool.
I really like that idea. That's kind of cool.
Yep. So it definitely makes it more welcoming, easier, at least from the fighter side of things. I didn't get to talk to any of the people who that did happen to them, how they felt about it. There's definitely runs of that. You definitely run the risk of like, oh, am I gonna super upset this person by calling them out as like me not liking their judging style, judging skills? So there's interplay to that. But I think, or I trust that when those events did occur, people said like, hey, you know what? Like Josh said, you need a break, take a break. No harm, no foul. Thanks for helping, but you need some time off.
Yeah, I think it gives you space to make those scenarios not have to be huge relational
Dramatic
issues. Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to sidetrack the whole conversation about reffing onto that one rule, but I think it was cool.
No, and that's definitely like why I brought it up, mentioning it, because that's one of the things that I thought was a really great addition, really great choice. Is that I'm a big fan of the 1+1 judging, but then for me it definitely goes back to that, like, it's been 18 months since we've done anything, and
Stop reminding me.
It definitely shows for some of the judging we ran into, things like that. I will say, those issues notwithstanding, the judges I dealt with were very welcome to like correction, to input, saying like, Fencer reads it one way, judge reads it another way. Like, you know what? Let's just call the organizer over here real quick. We'll get this solved right. No one's gonna have any hard feelings. Then we can move on with things. So they were definitely great at referencing the rules, referencing the organizers, getting people in play to answer questions very quickly. There was no upset, about when those events happened. And I saw that happen 3 or 4 separate times. Like, and it was very quick, like, hey, let's just get them over and ask this real quick.
Okay.
Let's just confirm this. Let's just let everyone in this ring know what's going on, how we're looking at this, how this is being judged appropriately.
Yeah, and
That
That communication
they were
is
really
critical.
good about that. Like they were really good about like they always had multiple. Like the way they assigned it is you had multiple people assigned per event.
Right.
For like the directors and like the organizers basically. So it's like you had like Sarah Potraz, you had like Kirsten and all these people, and then Chris Nelson walking around all the time. So like anytime that you needed that, there was a person available. They weren't just all running rings or tables. Like they had assignments to help out and
That's good too. That's
spend
really
time.
good.
So you had people that were available for like what Anthony talked about. Hey, let's just get the organizer over here to help it. And I thought that was really good as an organizer, period, to make sure you had people available versus, oh, I'm running a ring right now. I can't get there. You have to deal with it.
So how was the end result? I know this is a little bit more complicated question, but like with the best intentions, of course, we're all trying to run an event that is consistent, where the rulings feel fair to everybody, and very few people walk away feeling like there were bad calls. So I feel like we can judge this by the results. How did the tone of it all feel? Did it execute well in a way that everybody felt good about, or was there consistency issues? How did that go?
I feel like we're 80%.
Okay.
Is kind of my answer. That's kind of how I feel like it was overall very consistent. Overall pulled together. There were definitely some outlier judges, outlier instances of things that felt misapplied or misunderstood, misinterpreted, and that's definitely in my head growing pains of, because they did a bunch of new systems all at once, right? They did the new rule set. They keep modifying, tweaking the rules. Like Combatcon's rules are always evolving is a bit strong of a word, but always like growing, changing, like little tweaks here, little tweaks there. Oh, we had a lot of complaints about this last year. Let's add this one little twist of the wrench on this side this year and see how that changes things. And there's always little minute adjustments every year from that. But on top of that, they went, and I said, I know obviously nothing happened last year, but 2019, I don't think they were doing the 1+1 judging. And that's definitely a culture change. That's definitely
that's a big difference.
A source change, a control change. I think prior, the director was far less involved with the actual judging, which was always a pet peeve I had, because you have the most senior person there directing the ring, and they don't get to say what happens into the closest one of the fights.
Yeah.
Right. So them going to the 1+1, I'm a big fan of, because then you have two people who can get right on top of the fight and they can see things. And if any one of those people sees the thing, they should be able to call it with authority, with conviction of, hey, this happened, hard stop. Like, I don't need consensus.
Perfect.
So to jump in on the judging itself, like the system they used with the 1+1, I felt it was good. Like, so there was a guy I judged with a lot of my matches, like for the Elims and into the finals with Scott Arbor, who, like, she jokingly gave the nickname of Steel Eyes, and like he's literally referenced to a judge. Like, he literally fought one tournament and spent the entire rest of the event judging the whole time, because like he is about being the judge. I feel like the 1+1, when you have two really good judges,
it's efficient.
And because I worked with him and I worked with others, but when you have two really good people, what they're doing and can communicate right, it's great. I saw a lot of the problems I saw in other areas was A, people not moving, or B, newer people, or just like don't have the experience in the system, or a variety of things. And then it's like one side saw one thing, the other saw another thing, and they would just call a point out. While I do, like, I'm kind of torn, I guess is the best way to put it. I'm torn because I'm a very data-driven individual. And so it's like, when you have two of them and they're both quality, for like Anthony, you talked about, like when I was running the ring, everything went smooth and went great. I generally had Scott with me, and we also, like, we ran a consistent deal. Like, we knew what our roles were, we understood, we trusted each other, things went well, and the different things. Because, I mean, even I still made some bad, questionable calls, but if my judge sees it and they're good with it, I'm going to trust the person I'm working with, and you have to do that.
Right. No one bats 100, so.
Yeah. Wow. And this just feels like an advertisement for the conversation I want everybody to yell about next, which is, certifying judges across our league. But, we can yell about that later.
That'll be a whole other podcast.
To go into a finalize of that portion, like, the final results for me is, like, if you have two really qualified judges or two really skilled people, the 1+1 does great. I really believe that.
Yeah,
I'm 100% on board with that. Okay. I felt with some of the newness of people and new event deal and stuff, I still feel like it should have been like a director and two side judges, and that way, if it's the 2 out of 3 call, right? If two people saw the same thing and one didn't, we're going with the majority vote, period.
Right.
that gets to be difficult too, because that's how we run it at Bro. I know I'm slightly biased to that, but it just
Well,
makes
sure.
life easier.
No reason.
Because if you have it where, again, you 50-50, now for me, 50-50, we couldn't see anything we agreed on, we're washing it, redo it.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone was doing that, and you had people who would sit there and argue on, and then they come up with a score point that they felt was okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
So,
There's some consistency issues with that.
Well, and it winds
Yeah,
up, I
so-
mean, just the feelings of the fighters coming off a scenario like that is always what I worry about,
Yeah.
coming from the aspect of running it.
But then they give you an ability to get rid of people if you're just like, these guys are worn out and not giving me what I need.
Yeah,
So-
maybe that's the right balance.
Okay.
but then also to continue on, though, what I think made so that's a personal bias point there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when people were having trouble, that's when they, like with the 2-for-2 and something wasn't working out right, that's why they have that rule to invoke,
Yeah.
change the team.
Sounds good. All right, now I'm going to switch
and
our...
I think that if you do the 2+2 and you have that in your rule set process to be able to swap people out because it's not working or you don't have the qualified people for it, that makes sure people are getting some experience, but if they're not working, we can shift it around and try again later.
Right. So I'm going to switch over to organization and time management by the overall staff. So do you feel like things were scheduled correctly and ran on time? Thoughts?
No, but yes.
Okay.
Well, that's a... All right. We're interested, Anthony.
All
Do
right.
explain that.
Jump to the shenanigans.
Okay.
Their posted schedule was very ambitious, and the short version is all the elims wound up happening on Saturday, which there's nothing wrong with that. And they could have opened that from the intentions like all elims are going to be on Saturday, and it's just the way things are.
Oh, but
they
it
were
wasn't
trying to
originally
make
scheduled that
Saturday
way?
a little bit lighter. And one of the reasons this happened was, and I think very cleverly, they didn't generate pools until moment of start time.
Oh.
Right? So
Yeah.
what this eliminates was if you have 60 people sign up for longsword and you make your pools in advance and then 2 people don't show up, guess what? You're remaking your pools at 9 o'clock anyway.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
So you have whoever checks in, they have roll call at 9 a.m., you check in, then pools are generated. And then they started. So on paper, it looked like we were starting 30 minutes late, but I'm fairly confident they built that into their buffer time because they said longsword pool. So from the outside, it looks, man, it's 9:05, we haven't started anything yet, what's going on? This thing is so disorganized, this is dumb. The reality
okay.
is,
I see what you're
check-in
saying.
is 9, pool start at 9:30. That's just not on paper.
Okay.
And because of that, and because when you're generating pools on the fly, like you're going to get those pools that are one too many. And my pet peeve confusion all of HEMA is we have technology instead of like, because these are pools of 4, which means there's 6 fights, everyone gets 3 fights and you move on.
Yeah.
But there was the occasional pool of 5, which means everyone now gets 4 fights, and now you have 10 fights, so it's not quite twice as long, but it's twice as long by the time you have all the other breaks and everything else built into it.
It is.
And I don't understand why we don't just make everyone still fight 3 fights and figure out the buys, and then there's no weird multiplication happening, there's no weird backfilling happening. And
Yeah.
you
That's a good question. I'm glad you said that. I hadn't thought of that as a overarching HEMA problem, but you're right. I've seen that be a confusion point at several tournaments.
every single event does this, and I don't know why.
Huh.
I think it's a built-in response from old days of Hemo to make sure everyone got their fights in, kind of deal. And like,
But now you get an extra fight, and now, like, if we're going to get, like, super nitty-gritty technical, like,
I don't disagree with you. Like,
now, if you have a pool of 5, you can lose 2 fights and win 2 fights in advance, because you're still 2-2, which is way better than a 1-2 record.
right. I mean,
Right.
but that also comes to being like with Hema Scorecard, like,
But
Well,
you,
I think-
the scorecard has an option in there, and I'm, like, 90% certain that you can just, everyone gets 3 fights. Like, you can have a 30 people, everyone gets 4 fights, it'll do the back-end software, everyone gets 4 fights, and it doesn't matter how big your pool is.
And realistically, Josh, I think HEMA Scorecard is mirroring us, not the other way around. I think what Anthony's describing has clearly been going on for a while. It's habit. Like, I hadn't even questioned it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to go get. I'm saying like the cultural issue or the HEMA society issue of certain things that like when it comes to the pools of like having those giant bigger pools and different things and the confusion points. I still think it stems from older times. Let's go back to the first Geisel faction even. Right?
Yeah.
Kyle, do you remember how many fighters were at that tournament?
Nope. I was just there to fight.
There was 35 people at that tournament.
Okay.
And it got to be where people dropped out, things like that, and people were doing buy fights and helping each other out, and we wanted to make sure everyone had as many fights because at the time, and this is only 2016, mind you,
Right.
HEMA wasn't like on the grand scales of what we're at now. Here we are, and the last Geisel faction we had 100 people in the open longsword alone.
Yeah, that was I remember that. I still have nightmares about
but
running 3
But I'm
rings
saying,
at
like,
once.
we're still stuck in the 2016, 2015, 2014 mindsets.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so it's more of the technology is marrying us, and it's set up to do what we need to do, but we're still stuck in a mental note that everyone just needs to get their fights because they came in.
Right.
Versus being like Anthony's talking about here, everyone gets the same number of fights, just trust the software and do it. It's again, it goes back to cultural change of all things, and we just have to, like, the world's evolving, HEMA and WMA, or however the fuck you want to call it all, it's all evolving, and we just have to keep evolving with it. Like it's something I think is really good about, like, our general region, right? We all talk, we all communicate, there's general evolutions in our groups where we talk and communicate these things.
Clear
Me and
forward
Anthony
progress.
talk, me and Kyle, Jeremy, Nathan even. Like, we all do this communications to keep progressing our region and our events really well. And I still feel like some of this stuff, like for other regions and stuff, like it's just not quite there yet, or like, you know, the 2 years that we basically didn't have time to do shit is affecting things of the evolutionary change.
Yeah. So let's
I'm not trying to. I wasn't disagreeing with Anthony at all. I'm agreeing with him and stating why I think it's the way it is, and what we need to fix it to make it how it should be.
No, I'm glad you clarified, because I think you're right. I think several of these things we've talked about today are probably things that would fit into that umbrella of understanding that as we have bigger, more formalized tournaments, there will not only be, as Anthony said earlier, growing pains as we figure it out and try new things and figure out how to implement them in effective ways, but also things we're going to have to learn to leave by the wayside that may have been a big part of our culture before. I think both of those points are excellent. All right, Kyle, you were about to say?
Well, also, like, we can't all be weird open and just be, like, precisely on time for some reason.
Yeah, we're pretty sure that's Fey magic. We're not going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Bro was only 15 minutes late. Thank you very much.
Yep. Still not on time. Like, on time.
Fey magic. I swear it's got to be Fey magic.
Hey, we had the 100-some people thing, so yeah.
Oh, sorry, I had 99. I was one shy.
One is all that matters.
Wow.
Okay, so
Ask the question, Kyle.
Let's talk.
Just to on a serious interjection to go in, what Anthony said, everything about the running of the event and all that is. I 100% am on board with Anthony on what he stated. Just to, like, buffer zones factored in. Like, I felt they allotted for everything the right way. And there was a lot of, wasn't quite on time on paper, but, like, it ran really well from the way they did it. And I really liked it.
Okay. So,
and the flip side is you can't put the honest thing on paper because then no one's going to show up on time for the right things anyway.
Exactly.
Oh, no, you're right. I understand that. Hell, I do that with my family. I'm like, yeah, guys, if we don't leave by 10, we're going to be late.
Oh, yeah.
So that we're out the door, at the time that we can actually get to the thing. I know.
Well, let's talk about, like, layout of the event and, like, when it came to, like, scheduling where you could go to multiple events. Was the timing or layout of the tournament in a way that made that easy, or was there some bugs in the system when it comes to that?
I did everything I could but Saber, and that's because I didn't want to do Saber for personal reasons. And had I wanted to do Saber, it would have been available.
How many events did you do again? Like, count them up?
5 advanced cutting events: longsword, sword buckler, rapier, and single stick.
So if I signed up for 6 events, I was going to be able to make it to all 6 events without like, oh God, I'm running to the other event. Okay.
The only double over I had was sword and buckler with advanced cutting, but advanced cutting was staggered and tiered such that they made exceptions and worked around it.
Okay.
In the tiers based on which pool you were. There were a couple of people who were involved, and no one had a problem doing it and getting through it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really well laid out to make everything you wanted, and then for people like that did have the standard like Anthony with the sword and buckler pools, there was multiple people in the advanced cutting who were doing sword and buckler.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, what pool are you in? Oh, you're in the later mid ones. Cool, let's do y'all first. And everyone who was in advanced cutting was like, yeah, go ahead and get the guys who need to go now.
That's
okay. Cool. All right. I like
sense.
it. How about the physical layout of the place? Was there plenty of room for y'all to like put your gear up and stuff like that? Tell me about the facility.
Everything was accessible this year. So I'm comparing from 2018. I don't know what 2019 was. Yep. Was it smaller? In the past, they had a separate room for free play sparring work.
Mm-hmm.
That was condensed into a lightsaber room, and the overall event was a little bit smaller than I recall. There was one room or one suite they didn't add in this year.
Okay.
So backing things still down. But that said, there was still room. They had 3 rings running when 3 rings were needed or available. They still had a small strip for free play sparring, and there was still room for 4 pairs to be fighting with longsword at a time on it if they needed it. Gear was able to be tucked in on the side of the room without an issue. They've always had a gear check, bag check spot for like $1 for the day if you want to just drop stuff off and not worry about it.
Oh, sweet.
Water coolers all throughout the whole layout where you can just walk up and get you a cup of water at any point or refill your water bottle.
Very nice.
Nice. Was there any food venues or anything? Because I'm the fat guy who has to eat.
So food was you had to go downstairs.
Okay.
Like we were on 3rd floor. You weren't, but maybe 7 minutes.
Yeah, you're 7 minutes from the promenade behind the Flamingo, and then 10 from the full-on strip if you want to go somewhere more exotic.
And there was plenty of people who were constantly running out, hey, I'm going to get food. Do anyone need anything? So if you were like working like a ring or something like that, they would check in if they were going to get food, bring you back stuff, or, again, I'm going to go back to the organizers who were really good about coming in. It's like, hey, do you need a break right now? Like, you've been at this all morning. Go get you some food and take some time for a bit and then come back if you need to.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't give you, like, you have an hour. Like, they're like, go get you some food and take care of you and come back when you're ready.
Okay.
That's good.
Awesome.
And I thought that was really, like, I ran events, been in events, helped out at events, and, like, once you get into the meat grinder, you're in the meat grinder,
And
right?
There's no leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
And they did really good about making sure check in with people to have those breaks and go get food.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Because I know, like I've been at tournaments where it's basically like you just leave your fucking gear on because people just got to shovel food into your mouth for you if you're hungry because you can't even take it off to dry.
Well, I think I'd like to wrap it up with the same question to both of you, kind of 2 sides of the coin kind of a thing. Overall, we've talked about a lot of specifics, a lot of things, but just kind of in an overall, what stands out to you is kind of the rubric I want you thinking of with this question. Could you end us each with one thing that you would like the organizers to take into consideration for next year, maybe something you'd change or something you'd add or something like that, and then what your most positive takeaway was, kind of in that order? Let's start with Josh.
Okay, as I'm thinking here.
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot, man.
Okay, so I think on something to I guess on the consideration point, I mean, I've sent a bunch of things. Like I have a bunch of shit typed in an email, and some of them are specifics. I guess one I'd like to throw out there, I guess, is to really vet your judges, I guess.
Okay.
I think that's the best thing I can think about consideration.
That makes sense.
I'm not going to go into a ton of specifics, but like there was a conversation at one point outside of matches and running rings that I had with another person who was running things, and there was not a proper lineup of views of like what to call quality judging and different things and stuff like that. And like at the same time, you're like, hey, people are jumping in, they're volunteering, they're helping, but it's like we owe it to people who come to events to like give people who are going to be the quality person. Not saying that they didn't do good work in certain times and different things, but I guess it's I do longsword primarily, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can give me every longsword event you got, I'm going to judge the shit out of it, and I know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do sword and buckler.
Fair.
Them up, right?
All right. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Does that kind of make sense?
It does. It does. And I like your use of
the strength.
I like your use of the term vetting there. That's a good way to think about it, I think.
Yeah, because
it's not trying to turn nobody down, but it's like, where are you qualified to judge?
Yeah.
And
Does your judging and the way you're going to pull it off sync up with what we're doing with this tournament? Yeah, no, that's excellent. All right, what was your big positive takeaway, Josh?
My big positive takeaway was, honestly, it was a fucking fun event. Like, I never felt...
praise.
Well, I say that in a way of, like, I had a call that I didn't agree with in one of my matches. That, like, depending on how it could be, could have won or lost the match off of it, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't take it into, like, how we normally have people get highly competitive, especially after so long and the adrenaline's dumping.
Mm-hmm.
I never took it as, like, hey, this is what we saw. They communicated what they saw. Like, the directing and judging from a lot of people and, like, just the overall feel of the event was, we're all here having fun and we're trying our best. And it stayed true throughout the weekend. Like I just never felt like I was, there was bias or there was, like, just really outlandishly bad shit happening and people were covering up or different things. It's hard to put this in, I guess, simplistic, understandable terms. It felt like I was at an event I ran.
Okay. That's pretty high
It
praise.
is the best way I can put it. Like, if y'all all come to Bro, and, we're serious, we get shit done, but we're having fun, and it's a good time.
Mm-hmm. And there's
It
somebody...
felt very reminiscent of that. And it partially can be that we haven't done a tournament in so goddamn long.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, you haven't done one so long, I actually expect it to be more of a fucking everyone yelling at each other, because, like, that's the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
High tensions are in there, and shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it just, like... It's also like, coordinators, if something went wrong or was missed, people came up and outright owned it and stated, hey, we made a wrong call here. Like, we want to fix this, do things better.
That's good. I'm really glad to hear that.
Like, it was, I just don't really have beyond, like, consistency and, like, vetting of judges. Like, I overall had a blast. I think it was really well done. And, like, I plan on going back again and helping.
Okay. All right, well, we're going to pause you there and throw Anthony onto the spit.
Yeah, same question, man. What would be your thing you'd hope the organizers would at least consider, or maybe a suggestion, moving into next year, and then your big positive takeaway?
I think I'm going to agree with Josh on the judging, but in a different vein. So having been to SoCal Sword Fight, they're self-judged as well. Their last event had, between the multiple events, they had 200-something competitors, I want to say. Something
huge, yeah.
240-something.
Something absurd like that. They're never hurting for judging, and I was even heard people saying, like, they wanted to be able to judge more.
Oh.
Right? So clearly they're doing something right, and they have a director. I feel like they're the 1+3 still, I want to say. They have three judges on their sides watching, and the director, and then one or two people at the table. So they have a heavily manned ring, and people leave wanting to judge more.
That's
so
a good problem to
they're
have. Yeah,
doing
no shit.
something right that even our own events at home are missing out on, that they have a deep pool of judges that they can rely on and consistently get available. So there's an opportunity there to talk to them about what are you doing? What are you offering? What's your sweet spot that makes this available, applicable? Obviously, with the amount of things I was doing, my free time was limited. I wasn't gonna like, they were very specific in Combatcon about like, hey, if you're fighting in rapier, maybe you shouldn't be a judge for the rapier pools. Just saying.
Yeah,
That's good. That's a point we've made on this podcast before.
So they had that kind of in there, and everything else I was doing, like, okay, I don't really have time to judge much of anything. I did make myself available. I never got called in to help out. But like looking at the judging sign up, like to be considered to judge, and I understand where this is coming from, but you had to show up Wednesday night, attend a mandatory judge meeting, and help with Tommy to be considered for a judge, or they gave like high precedent to the people who were doing this. And like, I'm not opposed to like a mandatory meeting, but like you can do that virtually, like the week before or Sunday before, or set up other things like that. And to me, like, I get that they're trying to limit too many people judging and signing up for the free swag or something.
Mm-hmm.
But like telling me like, cool, I'm in Vegas, and wait, I need to show up and give you an hour of my time in Vegas on a day the event's not happening, and then I have to roll to Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a pretty high price at that point. I can see that.
And I'm like, I'm not even gonna send my name in. Like, I'll show up and help out if I'm able to, but I'm not gonna like commit myself to doing a thing and then be expected to show up at an event and roll mats and like.
Yeah.
I like the idea of some buy-in or a little skin in the game. If you're gonna help put something on like that, that makes sense to me. But if it's too high of a price, you're gonna deter people, and it's gonna become a problem. So that's for sure.
Like, I didn't even sign up for an official judging position. It's like, at this point, they either know me or they don't. I can either help out or I'm not, but I'm not gonna like give up an hour and a half. Or I don't know how long the class went. It might have been 20 minutes. Like, I don't know. I'm not gonna throw that out there and pretend. And I said, I understand why they're doing it. No one wants to roll to Tommy. That's a real
problem for sure.
Like, but that's a steep entry price to doing a fairly thankless job. Like,
it should be going the other way for sure.
There's got to be some other way of getting all the things done, or other ways of compensating people. Or like, cool, help roll to Tommy for an hour, and we'll get you X. We'll get you into an event for free. Like,
right, yeah, there's a lot of options there, but it shouldn't be help roll to Tommy for an hour, and you also get to get all the fighters mad at you for judging.
Yeah.
So to tag in for a split second, there was rewards on certain elements for that, for like events for next year and different things. Like, there were some incentives.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But to play devil's advocate, like, okay, so I have to fly to Vegas.
Yeah, no, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Couple $100 on plane tickets, hotel, several $100s on plane tickets, hotel, that pay for everything I want to do this time around, and then I get $50 off next year.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, I don't know what it is, but I'm saying, like, it's a high upfront commitment. It's a high time commitment. It's a high cost commitment to get cost off next time. And at that point, I'm just gonna pay full price and spend it for $50 next year.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I was just because I had the information thrown out. That's all.
All right.
Yeah.
So what's your positive?
I mean, it's like Josh said it all. Like, it's a lot of fun, and I'm sure this is largely rose-colored glasses of not having been able to do an event in a year and a half. But I mean, this is my second Combatcon, and it was the same thing the first time. Like, the atmosphere, the culture that they have there is like, I mean, I'll brag on Shuffle. It's not as good as ours, right? But
there you go. Obligatory. But appreciate
home
it.
field advantage.
Woo, woo.
But it's really good. And the culture is great. The culture is spreading. I saw lots of times people were throwing out hits that would have awarded them that weren't there.
Nice.
Like throwing out their own hits that were no good, like stuff like that. The stuff we talk about and see, they do a piece of it, and it's not everybody, but I mean, culture grows slowly, right?
True.
And you have to be the exemplar of that when you go to places and do things, and people are doing that there. And that's something I love to see. I love to see the people saying like, nope, that hit was no good, or yeah, he got me too, or that should be a double, that should be an afterblow. Like, all sorts of calls like that, even in some of the medal matches.
Oh, wow.
definitely the high level elimination matches, and that's where you need to see it, and that's the people everyone's watching. And so when I see events where that's happening and where events where that's becoming like the standard expectation, I mean, that's an event I'm always going to try and support, because that's the culture we need in our sport anyway.
Awesome.
I agree with you strongly there. That's really cool.
And I think that's a great thing to end on, is like the fact that that kind of positive culture is spreading. Well, thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Josh, for coming on and talking about the event. We hope to eventually find whoever's running Combatcon right now and get them on the channel sometime. So
you kind of fought him already when he made his trip through.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
in that
man.
case, yeah, we will.
We had
definitely...
this conversation.
Okay. Well, I've slept since then.
'Cause Jeremy harassed you. Yeah, he beat your ass that night. Apparently.
Wow.
Yeah. I'll
I hadn't heard this part of the story yet.
I haven't heard that part of the story. I didn't even
You
live
were
that part of the
there.
story.
All right, guys. Thanks again for coming on. This was really fun. I like doing the low-key episode and hearing your guys' thoughts.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate you a lot.
All right. This has been
Thanks,
Fighting
guys.
Words. I love you guys. I hope to see y'all soon so we can beat on each other. All right.
Yeah,
and-
so
Spartan
for-
Camp.
Yeah,
Spartan
that's
Camp,
it.
Labor Day, Katy, Texas.
Oh yeah, say that officially so we get the advertisement on here at the end of the podcast.
Shuffle, Southern Stroke Fencing League is hosting a sparring camp. Everyone's welcome to come out. Katy, Texas. It's going to be an all-day affair, indoor soccer field from like 10:30 in the morning to 7 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So,
Where should
Anyone-
people go if they're more interested?
It's on the league page, and I think it's on the website.
I'm trying to think.
Call Anna.
I'm getting coached. I'm getting my lines.
I see that.
Alright. So I said, like, so for the event itself, like, we're gonna do some like weapon speed dating, where like we're taking some of the more unpopular weapons and doing like quick, like 15-minute, like, here's the basic of this weapon if you want to play with it. We're setting a bunch of those set up. We're setting up a big King of the Hill thing. We're setting up multi-weapon melee events, stuff like that.
I'll bring my helmet.
It's going. If you want to find information, you can look up Southern Historical Fencing League on Facebook. SouthernHema.org is the official website. There's information, links, and stuff on there as well.
Excellent. There we go.
All right.
All right. Now, for real, this has been Fighting Words.
Bye.
Everybody have a good one.